pretend that you're not, but you obviously are. But like, that's all. I don't really care about any of that.
Thanks,
Harrison. But you have to.
Thank you. Let's give somebody. I think
she just had to instantly boot him off the feed because he was just exposing her and calling her out. We got to check in with dear friend of the show, my absolute fave. Okay, you can probably detect the sarcasm there. Candace Owens, the podcasting superstar and right-wing YouTuber of sorts. She's kind of all over the place ideologically these days. Well, she has been spreading these conspiracy theories about the death of Charlie Kirk and who's truly to blame. She's blamed everyone from the French government to Egypt to the FBI, the Trump administration, Turning Point USA, and beyond. But she's been doing this in a bit of an echo chamber. So mostly friendly interviews, with the exception of occasional spars with Piers Morgan, who's asked her tough questions about her theories, and gotten millions and millions of views from adoring fans on all of this content, spreading these theories. But she finally stepped outside the lion's den a little bit and did a Twitter space covering and taking questions about her big military base story, where she put on her show, and I covered this, and I pointed out some of the massive errors and blatant falsehoods that were published in this, but she brought on this random guy, Mitch, who has a very shady past and history and claims that he's made in the past that have turned out not to be true. But anyway, she brought him on her podcast for him to give his eyewitness testimony about how he saw Turning Point officials and congressmen and military leaders all meeting on a military base. And even Erica Kirk was there the day before, according to him. And it's all a bit much and a bit far-fetched. And it was very clearly implied that this was a meeting to plot to betray and kill Charlie Kirk. That was at least the heavy implication of that. Yet now Candace is saying something very different. First, though, here's a flashback clip of her presenting this information that will be very important as we go along. Take a listen to this.
What I'm about to tell you guys today is going to positively blow your mind. I just cannot see how this would lead to anything other than a full confession from the government about the military's involvement in his assassination, but I'm just going to deliver the facts and see where they land.
So remember that. On her show, Candace introduced this information and these allegations she was putting out as essentially the final nail in the coffin that would make it undeniable that the military was in on a plot to kill Charlie Kirk that apparently involved the head of TPUSA security, Erica Kirk, the day before, though Candace says maybe she wasn't involved. She's very wishy-washy on that point. Well, somebody, actually an InfoWars reporter, because people, even the conspiracy theorists, are starting to think Candace is too crazy for them, confronted Candace on this and asked her, like, what are you saying, right? And she, during this Twitter space, she did not cope well with the questioning. Let's watch a clip from this. Internet censorship and corporate data exploitation are getting more dystopian every day. And if you're browsing the web without privacy protections, you might as well just hand over all your data to the government and big corporations, because it's like walking around with all your information stapled to your forehead. That's why I use private internet access, or PIA for short. Private internet access is a VPN, a virtual private network, which simply is an app that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. It shields your digital life from the eyes of people that are looking to exploit your private information. It's also got added benefits like unlocking entertainment options worldwide. For example, when I went to Mexico on vacation recently, I wanted to watch my soccer streams that I pay for and keep watching those One Tree Hill reruns, but I was blocked because of my location. PIA helped me easily avoid those restrictions by just switching my IP address back to the United States. It works with all the major streaming options, so you can access more content than ever before, anywhere in the world. PIA is also available for all platforms: Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and so much more. And you can use one private internet access subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. Keep your data safe and make the most of your online experiences. Go to piavpn.com/Brad or just scan the QR code on screen to get 83% off private internet access with 4 months free. You'll be glad you did.
It's good to hear from people who disagree with us. So Harrison, if you want to unmute yourself and jump in, that would be great.
Okay, let's say that there's absolute proof, photographic evidence that everything that Snow says is true. Like, who cares?
Just to pause on this, we did go over this, but parts of what he said have already been debunked. He claimed a congressman was there, that he saw him meeting at the military base that they're talking about, and that congressman was actually on video at a House hearing in DC. So already we know this isn't true, but he's asking, like, assume the story is true. What exactly are you saying, Candace? And she doesn't really answer. Let's watch.
Who cares? I mean, what does that prove? What is the actual accusation? Who do you think was conspiring with who to do what?
Yeah.
And I think, obviously the name of the episode was, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered. The insinuation is that this was a assassination planning meeting,
Yeah.
which I don't even see any evidence of that. And then people I'm arguing with online are saying, no, this has nothing to do with the assassination.
Yeah.
So, I guess, if the space is why this matters, why does Fort Huacachuca even matter? Like, what is the claim being made? I still don't even understand that.
So it matters because why would Brian Harpole be on Fort Huachuca at all? Right? It matters because he's giving an alibi, which means he doesn't want to be associated. Like, it could have easily not mattered. Kind of, to speak to your credit, he could have been like, yeah, I was at Fort Huachuca with my brother. And my brother's in the military. I was dropping off some food.
So it could have not mattered, depending on how the guy she accused of being in on all this, Brian Harpole, the head of TPUSA security, depending on how he responded. But as I showed you, Candace prefaced this with the idea that this is basically the last nail in the coffin that proves the military killed Charlie Kirk. So yet it could have mattered, that it could have not mattered based on their response. See how the math is not mathing here, folks? See how this is not a person that is engaged in critical thinking and is instead somebody swept up in kind of a narcissistic fever dream of delusions and I don't know what else. Let's keep going here.
Okay, like that could have been then suddenly a dead end. That would have been nothing. Now, because Mitch had described this as a top secret meeting in an off-site building and had described this as top brass at the Pentagon and said that these sorts of meetings, and I am forgetting the military term, are when you're just about to embark on like a mission. I know I really uneducated, but military guys will sound better saying that.
No comment. But I'll just point out, so this Mitch guy was like there for a normal purpose, and it is documented that he was at the military base, Fort Huachuca, but she's saying that he saw them having this top secret military meeting because they totally just do that in really obvious ways that could just be observed by a random guest on a military base. Do you not think about these things, Candace? Like, obviously, if they were really having some secret meeting to plot to kill Charlie Kirk, which is very much the implication, even though she denies it, sort of, but also sort of not. They'd totally do that out somewhere where just random passerbys on the base could see it. That totally makes sense and passes the sniff test. Really? Come on, guys. Come on. Anyway, we're going to keep going with this, but first, do make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. Please also remember to consider becoming a channel member to support my content so I can keep calling out the left and the right, and I don't have to pander to one side just to ride the partisan YouTube algorithm. It's the number one way to help support me in my mission to call out BS from across the spectrum. So do check out the link in the description or hit the join button on YouTube to support my work, and let's keep watching Candace here.
It was compelling. Like, okay, like I said, Brian Harpole was acting funny. He's been acting weird. He's been telling verifiable lies, and he cared enough to present an alibi, meaning he didn't want people to think he was there, right? So if you have to give someone an alibi, it's because you don't want people to think that you're there. An alibi is not needed if there's nothing to hide. So that's why it matters. I think that's why it matters. And this reaction, rather than being forthcoming, is why it suddenly feels like, okay, this is important because no one's acting normal.
So this is diabolical to me. Candace is saying that the fact that this guy provided an alibi, attempting to show that he wasn't there, is proof of something suspicious or proof that he's somehow guilty, which is, of course, not true. If like, for example, if you are arrested by the police in connection with a crime and you provide them with an alibi showing, whoa, I didn't do this. I was in New York visiting my mother. That's not suspicious behavior. That's what anyone does when they're accused of a crime they didn't commit. And the funniest thing about this is that in the past, Candace has explicitly, and surely would, used the lack of a response or of an alibi as evidence that they're up to no good. So if he hadn't attempted to provide an alibi, and they don't believe his alibi because it shows that he was in Dallas, but technically he could have, in between two flights over the span of like a day, made it to Fort Huachuca and back somehow. Like, it is theoretically possible. So it's not a ironclad alibi, but though it's a pretty strong one. Anyway, though, they don't believe the alibi, but the fact that she says, well, the fact that he even provided an alibi is suspicious and shows he was doing something he shouldn't have been. If he hadn't provided an alibi, she'd be saying, the fact that he just won't tell us where he was is suspicious. It shows he was up to something. It's like a unfalsifiable accusation or hypothesis. And again, that's not critical thinking. That is conspiratorial delusion. Guys, I'm sorry. That's just what it is. And it is, I don't care about this Brian Harpool guy. I don't know anything about him. What I care about is basic facts and decency and truth. And Candace has abandoned those values a while ago, but millions of people are still tuning into her. Now, I did appreciate the fact that this guy from InfoWars, of all places, kept calling her out and told her that he doesn't believe any of this or thinks she's really stumbled on to some smoking gun with this Fort Huachuca meeting. And of course, she promptly kicked him off of the live feed for the Twitter space because she couldn't really handle the heat or the criticism, and she knew she was imploding before everybody's eyes. Let's watch this next clip.
2 months, nobody is going to remember the name Mitch Snow or Fort Huachuca, and this is not going to go anywhere, and that this is a nothing burger. I just think it's an absolute nothing burger that's not going to lead anywhere. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You can prove me wrong, but again, my whole thing has always been that this devolves into this question of like, was he there? Was he not there? And the whole time I'm just going, what does it matter? If the conclusion is that he's a complete liar, it's the exact same outcome as proving that these people were actually there, because so far you haven't connected it to the assassination in any way whatsoever, except that maybe this guy thinks that he saw people that are around Charlie Kirk. And my whole point is, obviously the insinuation is, I mean, again, when you're saying Erica Kirk was there, but not actually there on the day, but in the area, but not because of the assassination meeting, but it's like, okay, clearly the insinuation is that these people had something to do with the assassination, and you can make that claim or not, or pretend that you are, but or pretend that you're not, but you obviously are. But like, that's all. I don't really care about any of that.
Thanks,
but
Harrison.
you have to.
Thank you. Let's give somebody. I think just for you to say something clearly and obviously and clearly doesn't make it clear or obvious. What I'm following this investigation. Charlie was assassinated. I'm going to take every step, and I'm going to say what I know at the exact time that I know it. So I cannot say that it was definitively an assassination meeting. I can say that I have a feeling about this meeting that if it is in fact Brian Harpool there and he's lying about that, then that's not good. It's not a good thing, because there's no reason to lie unless you have something to hide. But thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate that.
I love this. She just had to instantly boot him off the feed because he was just exposing her and calling her out, and she couldn't handle it. And she is saying, it's so funny. She just says, I'm just saying the facts and the truth as I learn it. It's like, no, the problem is you're not doing that. And I can't definitively say it was an assassination meeting, but you opened up your show by suggesting that this was the final straw, proving that it was a military plot to kill Charlie Kirk. I cannot keep up with this woman's mental gymnastics. She deserves a gold medal, a gold Olympic medal for Olympic gymnastics, mental gymnastics of the highest order. Wow, I'm really struggling to get that one out. But you guys get what I'm saying. This is not normal. This is not coherent. This is not sane. And I think it's not just asking questions when you're making extremely serious allegations and accusations against people. That's not just asking questions, Candace. That's making accusations that are extraordinary, and you got to have extraordinary evidence. And instead, all you have is this kind of constant shifting of the goalposts. It's like smoke, because when you try to touch it, it moves, right? You point out the Egyptian planes thing, and then that gets debunked. She moves on to Mitch Snow, and then people point out certain parts of that, and she moves to other parts. It's like we can't even keep up because she's not even trying to offer a consistent message. And again, guys, the guy confronting her on all of this is an InfoWars reporter, and she is too crazy, too conspiratorial, and too incoherent even for him. That's remarkable. It's really remarkable. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe. Remember to consider becoming a channel member if you can to support my work. And well, other than that, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk again real soon.